can cut this. I'm going to save these for bloopers one of these days.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, I am Peggy Watkins, and I'm the author of Hillbilly Chess, The Bastard Pawn, and I am here today in my house with Miss Lucie.
Hi. I had to go online and review you. It was so important to me to make sure I said something because I knew you, and we'd met in the past, but I never read your work, any of it, even the children's books.
I know. Why is that?
I don't know. I just never. I always liked you as a person, and I never got to know you as the author. And when this book came out, it was something that I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read the book. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did. This was an amazing book. I hope I get it autographed. By the way.
Yes. I'm honored to do that.
Just because it really invested, I got so invested in Peggy the child at first, and then it became Peggy the teenager, and I was amazed. I was just amazed at how you go through things and everybody handles them differently. And I learned that some of the things you went through, I was like, I don't know how I would handle that. I don't know how, but it made me think. It made me really think about how I would handle things, and it gave me a lot of insight into my own childhood and my own thoughts and how I handle things now. And it was just such a good read. I couldn't put it down. I could not put it down. It was, I looked forward to it. I really looked forward to my book time with this, and it just, I don't think people understand until they get through that first chapter. Any book, that first chapter is going to either suck you in, or you're going to be like, yeah, this is going to take me a month to read. I did not have that problem with this book. It drew me right in. In the first chapter, I was hooked.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel really good.
So you amazingly helped me deal with a few things from my childhood by reading this book. And I love that. I thought that was, not only did I see a technical side of it, because I knew you had a therapist, counselor. I knew you had that background. And in here, you sometimes look at that from the counseling background, and you talk about that. So it's almost like you can flip between Peggy the child, the teenager, the counselor. You give us perspectives from every angle on certain topics, and I thought that was so cool.
You know what? Wow. I don't even know that I don't even know that I did that. I was just, it was when I started writing it, I honestly, when I first started writing it, Lucie, I wrote it because I thought I really need to heal. I've got so much junk in the trunk, literally. but
No.
I mean, I've got so much junk left over that, I really need to heal. So I started writing it for me to heal. And then, and then I let a couple people read it, and they're like, oh no, write more, whatever. But because I remembered how I felt as a child. I remembered my teen years. I have one of those memories where I remember everything. Sometimes that can be like a curse. But I remembered how I felt. And, being someone who, was a psychotherapist for 15 years and worked with foster care, adoptions, abuse, and depression, I wanted people to know what we go through as little kids, what we think and how we feel, because I feel like that's going to help some people in my profession and other people who don't know that maybe some child is being abused, and they're, you know, what's going on in their minds, because it's so sad. And I mean, I've worked on a few cases to where I look at my book and I go, that was a cakewalk.
Right.
Compared to some things that some other children go through.
And I can't imagine some of the things that you went through, but then my experiences were different for different reasons,
Mm-hmm.
but how you handled them and how you came out of them, it was relatable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, to deal with certain things in my childhood, and I'm like, yeah, I could let that go, or I can just push past it and say, nope, that's in the past. And you did that in certain things in here, even as a child. And I was able to do the same. So in some ways it felt really relatable for me. Yeah. And then you said you were a Stephen King fan, so you just hooked me right there. Because I am an absolute Stephen King fan. Yes. And it is amazing, though, that, you know, I'm a little bit younger than you, so even with a little age difference, I was able to relate a lot with your things you described, that you know, going to the candy stores and things like that. I could relate with that. And when I loved when you talked about working for Ted Nugent. And the reason that stuck with me is because I was in that store, and I knew that store, and so it was, for me, this book, I could pick out certain things and I'd be like, yeah, I know that place, and it made it just that much closer for me to make me embrace it. Nice. Yeah, so I loved that I knew a little bit of the history. That made me feel, of the places, I should say, and that made me feel like I was personally invested in the story, and it drew me in even deeper. But you wrote it, the way you wrote it was so unreal to me, because you hit the feelings you would feel as a child. You were able to really clearly say how you felt. And then in the next breath, you're laying it out like you were a therapist's point of view, and it was really neat to see you be able to seamlessly go back and forth in between those thoughts, and I liked that. I thought it really helped me a lot, more than you probably would think, in getting through a couple things I hadn't quite let go of in my childhood. I was like, yeah, I can do that. I can let that go. If she can let this go, I can let anything go. But it was a really well written book, and
thank you
and
so
I
much.
I was very honored as a reader to be allowed into your life, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And you know, I feel very honored when, you know, like when you told me you got the book and that you read it, I'm like, oh my God, thank you. That's so awesome. You know, and I have a good few handfuls of friends, and probably some family members, you know, have purchased it as well. And, you know, it makes me feel really good that, you know, people care enough to want to, you know, read about it. And, you know, my hopes is that, you know, and I might have said this, I might be just repeating myself. My hopes is that, you know, people in my field, the psychiatric field, and the medical field all around, maybe they will get something out of it, and maybe it will help them to understand their patients a little bit better. And maybe it will help other people, you know, like you said, you know, you kind of worked through a couple things. I'm hopeful that happens for a lot of people.
I think you'd be surprised. I think, and sometimes you don't think about things in your childhood as an adult, because you're living your life and you're trying to put it in the past. And sometimes you just let things go that you actually need to deal with. And maybe this will help people do that, you know. I'm looking forward to reading what you got next. I can't wait. I know you probably haven't started yet, but I am actually looking forward to the next thing, because if you can write again in so many different points of views, then I will definitely be in line to buy the next book, because we are all different. We all have different ideas and views on everything in life, and it was nice to see so much of that in one book.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Well, that's
I'm very appreciative.
I'm just telling you the truth, because I tell it like the pickle squirts right in the eye.
Oh, the pickle. You read that part too about the pickle juice? You got to get the book for that one.
Yeah, you'll love the book. And I just, personally, I would say this book is fantastic, and it takes a lot to get me to slow down enough to read a book, and I definitely can say I'm grateful that I did, that I took that time. It's a fast read too. Once you get in it, you just can't put it down.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm glad that we got to spend some time together, and
it was nice.
Wow, this is pretty cool.
Well, thank you for writing it, because I think more people need to see and read it. I think if you get a chance to listen to it or read it, it'll definitely give you a different perspective.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.